everybody, it's Ed Mann here, the executive producer of the Real Brady Bros podcast. It's just a highlight of my life to be on with these guys virtually every week, sometimes twice a week. And you know why sometimes twice a week? Well, I'm going to tell you. Because we do Q&As. That's right. At Real Brady Bros on the Facebook page. Just type away to your heart's desire. Let us know what those burning questions are, and we will burn them back to you in a form of this Q&A. This one's number 7, and I'm very excited to introduce my two favorite Brady Bros, Barry Williams and Christopher Knight.
Hello, Ed.
And I guess as it goes, we are
the real
Brady
Bros.
And we are doing our very best to say that at the same time.
Our editor, Jordan, who's remarkable, just leave that in, Jordan, because you know what? It's charming.
Yeah,
it's sweet.
We really make a real attempt.
There you go.
All right.
Because we are remote. We are, the three of us are in 3 different locations.
That's correct. Yeah, we are.
But we
are
do
in different
watch
places.
each other, and people might not know that actually
right, we
we're not just like on phones to each other. We're using a product called Squadcast, actually. So we can see each other. Because when doing an interview, it's always nice to look at the others like in the face, in the eyes.
Check up on our summer tans, all that stuff. Yeah. What's going on? Look at that.
Ed, what do you got for us
We
today?
got questions. We digress. Here we go. Doris asks the following. My question is, Chris and Barry, what are some of the TV shows you are binge watching now?
Oh, man. A lot of them.
Finished
a lot of them.
Ozark.
Yeah, well, I finished Ozark on the night it comes out. You know, I know they broke them up in the last season, but I live in the Ozark Mountains, so that is near and dear to me. And they really captured the flavor and the voice of the mentality, the kind of the thinking. It's pretty simple. It's my way or the heck with you.
Yeah, it's over. It's over now.
I loved it. Love that show. Vikings. I binged on Vikings.
That's a hard one to binge on. I mean, it's 9 seasons.
Brutal. It was brutal and wonderful, and I thought it was very historical. I've just finished watching the best movie about making a movie that almost didn't get made I have ever seen, and it probably will be for a long time, called The Offer, about the making of The Godfather.
Oh, I heard. Yes, I was recommended that.
Based on the notes of Al Ruddy,
Mm-hmm.
who produced it. And it's a fantastic cast, but a wow story. And knowing that was going on simultaneously with our second season, and they had when they filmed at Paramount, they had a soundstage not a stone's throw from us, across from the wall where Ambi Davis and I would play tennis against the soundstage wall. And had no idea all this was going on.
Amazing.
It is special.
Gonna have to catch that.
How about you, Chris? What you been watching?
Well, Ozark, let's see. Boys, one of my favorites. Enjoyed Reacher. Finished watching the new Dune as the movie. Loved that. But series that I'm currently binging, I love F1. What's it called? It's called Drive to Survive. This is the 4th season. And they've been picked up for a 5th. They document the Formula One season, and it is brought to bear that there's a huge audience. Even my sister,
oh yeah,
all of a sudden knows all the drivers by name, and she never watches Formula One. I mean, I'm a fan of the sport, but now our entire family, my niece and my nephew, brother-in-law, they're all into Formula One. And the men in the family are actually now into watching the races as well. But they got into being interested in Formula One through the personal stories, the backstories. Sort of like what the networks discovered in broadcasting the Olympics, in spending so much money on the rights to the Olympics. They sort of want to afford themselves the best shot at a high rating as possible. And they discovered that without knowing who these people are, there's little interest. There's going to be inherent interest by those who follow sports closely. But there's a lot more interest by a wider audience if you explore the inner workings of the individuals who are in the competition.
Well, of course. I mean, this is the whole thing that Dancing with the Stars is based on, and all the talent shows and all that stuff is about getting to know the backstory, what's going on, how they got there, what it means to them. You'll see this too in horse racing. It's human interest. It's human interest. Another series that I just finished watching, also very good, complicated. limited, but I thought significant, is Euphoria. And it surprised me because it's about teens and high school and drugs, and but it's not written for teens, high school, and drugs. It's definitely adult, but a very, very in-depth look at how that all works. Barry Levinson's son, Sam Levinson, created and wrote and directed it. And all things Taylor Sheridan, starting with Yellowstone and just go right down the line. Whatever he's doing, I'm watching.
So there's our Killing Eve. I'm waiting for the final season. I know it's out. If you had, I watch it through Hulu, so I get it in a delayed fashion. So I know that the season has ended, but I'm still waiting for it to show up on Hulu. Killing Eve's a great show. Handmaid's Tale was another one that I binged watched.
They say they're coming out with another season on that one, which I can't believe
Handmaid's
because
Tale?
it ended. Yeah, this ended in such an extraordinary fashion.
I didn't realize they were going to actually go
season 6, I think. Yeah.
Well, Chris, I'm going to vouch for your taste and recommendations in series and movies because people might like to know you and I share ideas regularly. And what movies have you seen? What series have you seen? And you've pointed me unfailingly in a good direction.
And I'm looking for. I keep a file of everything that I watch. So
you told me Ted Lasso.
Oh, Ted Lasso, of course, Ted Lasso.
Great show.
I did not know what that was about. And I'm honest to goodness, I laugh, I cry, I care. It's just amazing.
Umbrella Academy, another one. Space Force, I loved. Unfortunately, it's not going to come back for a third season. Raised by Wolves, very interesting. Oh, Stranger Things. I'm just finishing up Stranger Things. It takes me a while to digest Stranger Things. Like I don't need to really binge watch it. I watch that more in a fashion similar to old television, like one a week.
I think we got a pretty good hit list.
I think we got a good list. I think we got a good list.
I want to get to the end of The Americans, which was a series on TNT, I believe.
FX, I think. Wasn't it?
But I think they did 8 seasons. The Russian spies living in the United States. I think I'm into season 3 right now. So plenty to watch. And
isn't that the truth?
Yeah. But we went and saw Top Gun, the new Top Gun. And with a movie like that, it seemed like the right choice to bring us back to a movie theater.
You and Kara, right?
Yeah.
IMAX, baby.
Yeah,
IMAX, the best. Highway to the danger zone.
David asks the following. And recently, Barry, you brought this up as well. I think both of you talked about it, the Coogan Law, having to do with child labor. This David asks, did your contract with the studio, presumably Paramount, have provisions for you to earn money from the reruns, sale of related merchandise? Or has this been, your adult life been similar to the experiences of the cast of Gilligan's Island, where they got very little?
I don't personally know about Gilligan's Island. They were canceled, I believe, in 66 or 67. So 2 years prior to the start of the Bradys. Firstly, the contract that you're under is the contract at the time of principal photography, essentially at the time you're in front of the camera. So if our contracts would have changed somewhere through the middle run of the Brady seasons, those episodes shot with a new union contract would have been subject to whatever those rules and regs were at that time. And our older episodes, it wouldn't affect our older episodes. It would have affected just those. In fact, our entire run was affected by a SAG contract. In that SAG contract was the first reruns that actors got, and it was up to 10 runs per episode you would get residuals for. Prior to this contract, there was no reruns that were offered as a base to actors. If an actor was to get reruns, he had to negotiate it individually. And I do believe our 69 contract was the first contract that SAG had with reruns, residuals. But as we got canceled, we shot till March of 73, actually. And that summer, actors went on strike. We were not shooting anymore. And that strike resulted in a new contract that fall that allowed for perpetuity. In other words, in our residuals, we got paid in a reducing amount for 10 runs. And then all rights reverted back to the owner. You didn't get anything more for any other reruns. The contract that actors signed, the minimum contract, at the end of 73, made that last figure, I think it went down to 10, but whatever that number was, got paid in perpetuity forever. So it didn't matter. All rights never reverted.
And it was not grandfathered in. It did
It
not.
didn't affect us.
It only picked up. It did not affect us. Also, just to address the question, so we were paid for a short time with residuals. We do have merchandising deals that produces some money.
We didn't have a merchandising deal. That was an interesting. But that's an interesting question. Go on.
But we do now. I like to put it into perspective. There's a difference when you're hungry for a job and looking for a job, and when the network wants you. So if we use the Very Brady Christmas, for instance, that 2-hour movie, I made more money doing that 2-hour movie than I did in the entire run of the 5 seasons of the Brady Bunch. So the show has been good to us, I think, in many ways, financially, but not necessarily attached to the original sitcom.
The original sitcom didn't pay very well. It was again, going back to 1970, what the average family income was, $10,000. So
but it did provide for like I had the best stereo on my block, and I did start with a 914 Porsche as a car. So I mean, there were perks, to be sure, and a great record collection.
Right, I had a mini bike, right? But the merchandising deal, we didn't have merchandising deal. People were trying to sell stuff and they couldn't. It was 92 that we negotiated a merchandising deal with Paramount ultimately, because it wasn't covered in our early contracts. Of course, that stuff is now covered completely in your agreements. That is not merchandising. It doesn't come under SAG. It's not part of SAG's domain because, well, it's not any part of what they do, right? That's selling your image on something. It's not the celluloid. It's not the video. So,
but anyway, we're all alive, well, and successful in our own ways and paying taxes.
There you go.
I'm sure everyone's thrilled to know that.
In case anybody was wondering.
Exactly. If there was any interest at all from the authorities.
Nobody bought their own private island.
Oh, well, that's good. Nicolas Cage would be thrilled to know he has no competition in that arena. That's great.
And so will Johnny Depp.
Right. All right. So there's a question that came in from Kathy and actually from David. And it was both about scripts and lines and memorizing. And did each of you guys have a competition to count your lines in the scripts? And who had the most lines? And also, how did you learn them? Did you memorize each one, or was it by out cues, prompters?
Let me take a stab at
this. Take a stab at that one, Barry.
Okay, so
let me guess. Wait, Barry's going to answer.
Go ahead.
He counted his lines.
You're creating an image for me now.
Did you count your lines?
No,
okay.
No, I never did. I didn't. I never had a sense of competition with anybody. I wanted to make sure that it was as good as it could be. I do know on other shows they did, and they would complain to the producers. And happy days, and that wasn't something that even came to our thinking, because we had shows where a singular character was basically featured. So of course they were going to have more lines. But it was, it's an ensemble show. Let's just say that. So we didn't have that competition. In terms of the scripts, we were doing essentially, on average, over the course of the 5 years, a show a week. And we would get it during the week that we were filming the show prior. And we all had our different ways of memorizing things. The lines and things were not as complicated as one might think. These are all conversational. The scenes are usually not longer than 2 pages, 2.5 pages. You may have 6 lines, 7 lines in that follow very naturally and our own voices. And rarely would we be asked to do like a soliloquy or, have a page of memorizing. So it seemed to come in, pretty well knowing them, rehearse it a couple of times and start shooting.
So I do know that there were conversations held behind the scenes about the fairness of lines, that it was very, very important to Sherwood that we didn't have that competition that was obvious in the industry with other shows between stars. He would have been dreadfully disappointed in us if we had gone down that path or had evolved to that.
And let me say, Chris, I don't mean to interrupt your thought, but I just want to add to what you're saying. Part of that was Sherwood's benevolence. He wanted to protect us as kids, and he didn't want us to be engaging in those more, those kinds of tactics or thinking in that kind of way. He wanted us to be kids and have a good time and deliver a fun show.
And as a way of making certain that we never evolved that way was, again, his fairness. We weren't told how many episodes until this day. I have never done the math on it to parse through all the years and find out how many episodes I had, for instance, or compare those to the ones that Barry had, because it seems in total to be absolutely fair. The amount of work that we each had was fair. And I know this particularly well because I was introduced to this conversation in that first season when they got to know us. I mean, after the first 13 episodes, which I believe were well prepared, were like within the, well before we started filming. Now, in the other years, they were pulling together scripts just in time to do them. There were episodes that were then parsed out to the individuals, and there was a concern with me because I had a hard time. It was clear that acting wasn't something that was coming naturally to me, and they were not sure if I could handle it. And giving the Peter character a focus in a script, would they be on schedule? And it worked out. It worked out well, actually. So that was no longer a concern, but it was a concern going on into that. And
what about memorizing lines? I mean, how did that?
Everybody does.
What was that process for each of you?
Well, I mean, the process when you're 8 years old or 10 years old is you're doing the lines as read by your mom. You're just hearing them back and you're spitting them out. Like, there's an old joke about you want to find a good kid actor, interview their parent, because that's who the performance is going to be from. And then it changes. I mean, sure. It's kind of a magical thing. It's just comes together.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't for all of us. Even before I was working in television, my dad said, "Look, if you're going to do this, because he was not a fan, you have to study." And so I worked with a coach. We did group study. I did single study, and she taught me techniques for memorizing and emphasis and speaking. And we practiced and tried those things. By the time I got to the Brady Bunch, I had a good deal of experience with that. Robert Reed sometimes would play theatrical games with us. Sometimes we'd change lines. Like I would read Mike Brady's part, and he would read Greg Brady's part or Peter Brady's part or whoever. And then sometimes we would say, okay, let's try and change the emphasis of the scene. Let's make it about, use the same words and make it about something else. And all those kinds of tricks both create spontaneity. They expand the possibilities. It's a creative process. Sometimes you find meanings in things that may not be on the face of the page, but that's
a subtext,
more of the way that I was approaching the scene work.
I've got two more questions.
2 more?
Yep. I've got 2 more. That's it. That's all I have.
Oh, no.
Isn't that crazy?
We have so many more answers than that.
Ryan asks, can you confirm or put to rest rumors that the character of Mike Brady would have been written out of a potential 6th season due to disagreements with Sherwood? Is that true?
I don't think anybody can confirm that. I mean, maybe there was wishes of that. But listen, even a producer who is running into problems with his star would lose out to that star if the network saw fit. That if they felt the ratings were coming from that actor, the actor ultimately has the power, even if the owner of the show wants to move on without them. Again, it's a licensed property. The network is licensing the show. So ultimately they hold sway. They get what they want. And I doubt that even as much as Bob was a pain in Sherwood's ass, that Sherwood would have been able to get rid of him, unless the network too felt that they were paying a penalty from that star.
No, there's always the Bewitched thing with the 2 dicks, if you guys recall.
Sergeant York.
They just replaced one with the other.
But I understand that was because that Dick York had ailments. He had a back issue. He couldn't endure standing upright. So he had to be written out. So it wasn't. I think that a physical limitation.
I've heard the same rumors about that. It is no secret that Robert Reed and Sherwood Schwartz did not get along well on the set. They were at each other for qualities. They just came from different worlds about humor and subtexts and plot lines and believability and all of that.
Motivation.
Sherwood had said that everyone knew that Sherwood did not want to continue with Robert Reed, but like you said, Chris, we're not in that office, and so we only know what we've heard or been told to. I'd heard that it was expressed that if we were to renegotiate contracts and do a sixth season, that Sherwood would prefer to do it without Mike Brady, move him. But I don't know how that could happen.
I think if you look at the show itself, I mean, we're all growing up. It takes on a distinctly different feeling. Matter of fact, we'll get into that, over the course of our podcast. We'll see the growth of us, in that 5 years, and you see,
especially in the fifth season.
Yeah, you start seeing us kind of topping out on a kids show. So,
hey, one last question from Leslie. She asks, did you all wear your own clothes, or were they chosen by wardrobe?
That's a good question. Let me go first here, Chris, on that. Sometimes I did bring in, like when we were singing Time to Change, I was wearing a fringed leather jacket that I had purchased at a hippie store at a festival somewhere, and I brought that in. So sometimes we'd bring our own clothes, but generally what happened every season, we would go out because we grew and we needed to buy new clothes. So we would shop I did shop with the wardrobe master, and we would literally go to Beverly Hills or go to Santa Monica and go into stores and then would choose and pick, so it was kind of a mutual thing. Again, what Chris was alluding to, by the time we obviously had a bigger budget in the fifth year, so the clothes became more 70s fashionable.
What's interesting is I don't believe that there was any wardrobe purchased in the first season. Certainly for the pilot, you bring your own clothes, and that's how any short-term work is accomplished. The actors are bringing their clothes, and then they select from the selection that you bring them, and then they keep those clothes for the duration of the shoot. The reason is you're not completing the wardrobe use in one day. They need it again, and the last thing in the world they need for you is to take home your own clothes, and they haven't finished a scene, or they're doing another scene that uses those clothes, and they're not there on the set. There's an advantage for them owning the clothes. Certainly, if they're using your clothes, they're going to keep them. In the first season, I don't remember shopping at all. And if I look at the clothes, I believe that those were my own clothes, or we went and shopped for clothes without a wardrober. But by the second and certainly by the third season, we were out shopping at the beginning of each season with the wardrober, looking for clothes that fit us, or fit my mom's taste. So
yeah, I think they were basically in line with our own taste. The girls, I think, have a different take on that. I don't think Maureen and Eve cared for their wardrobes much, but maybe they had more say in the fifth season as well. But it does raise an interesting question about the appropriateness of the clothes for some of the scenes we did. Like sometimes, I'd be in the house and I'd be, wearing boots and a tucked in sweater and some sort of special belt going on. It's like, where'd I just come from? Who am I dressing up for? In
someone's interpretation, because when we show up to do a scene, it wasn't like we discussed what clothes we're going to wear in a scene. No. It was just they were laid out. And then that is the outfit that the wardrober saw fit that you should wear in this particular scene. The wardrober, his discipline, he goes through the script, he reads the script, he reads, what you're doing. If you're going out on a date, you're probably going to be dressed differently than if you're, working on your bike in the garage. So they take cues from the script itself and pick clothes accordingly. And sometimes you're looking at it going, I don't think this works. And you might suggest something different. I mean, Barry brought in a fringe jacket because it was a special moment, and he had a particular idea at that moment what he wanted to sell.
Well, strangely enough, from my career on the radio, this subject never came up. So the thing that the guys at Kiss FM said,
the makeup costs on radio are just horrendous.
And Ed, I always feel that you dress perfectly for someone on radio.
The best dressed guy that no one's ever seen. That's exactly what they call it. Yeah, no kidding. Guys, this has been so much fun. Q&A number 7 is in the books. In fact, as you're listening to it now, it already dropped. So there you are.
How about that?
It's amazing how it works. Guys, thanks so much. Christopher Knight and Barry Williams, the Real Brady Bros. Any questions? It's at the Facebook page, at Real Brady Bros. Until next time, guys.
Thank you.
Brady on.
At Progressive, you can get 24/7 protection, even if you break the space-time continuum.
We did it! We time traveled to yesterday!
Wait, Progressive covers us 24/7, but we just created an 8-day week, and it's 24/7 coverage, not 24/8. We gotta go back.
Are you joking right now?
Shh, I'm calling them. Hi, I have a question about time travel.
Progressive offers more than a great price when you bundle home and auto. We offer round-the-clock protection, which literally means anytime. Coverage from Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and third-party insurers, and subject to policy terms. Bundle discount not available in all states or situations.